Welcome to GearWire.com. I'm Bill Holland, and this is Crosstalk number 34. I'm here with Drew Craig.
What's up?
And Chubbs Weatherall. And put the paper down, man.
I gotta fucking read.
You gotta right. So anyway, we're talking about USB guitars today. This is our Tech Talk segment, and we will be talking about how much Britton loves USB guitars, and a little bit about USB guitars versus miking a traditional amp setup or versus amp modeling. So, do you want to? I'm thinking you want the floor on this first.
All right. The thing is you got to tackle a couple of issues when you're starting with USB guitars and digital recording, amp modeling, and so on and so forth. And you're dealing with a huge array of stuff that is all around in the same arena that you kind of go down to the classic, like, is it okay? Does it sound as professional or as good to use modeling and processors and digital realm stuff for something that is inherently analog? There's a lot of people who sit on both sides of the fence for this. First thing we're going to think about, though, and talk about is USB guitars. Now, personally, I think that they sound kind of like your mom getting run over by a car, but like, you know,
what does that sound like again?
Like utter and total ass. But like, the thing is that we gotta kind of come down to why that sounds like, why I'm saying
why
this.
it sounds like ass.
Yeah, instead of just me going off and saying like it sounds like butt crack, we're gonna go and just like think about this logically. You have a magnetic pickup that's wound, all right, and it's electronic. All right, it goes through a processor and becomes digital signal, but it doesn't have time to actually like, the signal's not actually changed. It's a representation of exactly what the pickups are representing, all right? And it actually does a disservice to what electric guitars should sound like, right? There's no, like, the tone circuits and everything else.
Well, there's none of the physical action going on that you have with an actual guitar and an actual amp.
Well, that's not as much the issue as the physical as the actual physics.
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
that's
what I mean.
Yeah.
But I'm using the word.
The physics of like
the science, if you will.
Because you don't have your electrical signal is no longer electric at all. It's ones and zeros, and it's a digital representation that removes some of the space and some of the other issues. One of the key issues is that like you don't get the same amount of waveform like waste that you can get out of recording if you mic to a DAW. Like if you take a guitar and an amp and you plug it in and you plug a mic in and you run it through the preamp and then run it through the DAW, you have a whole lot of noise that will get cut off. It's like natural dither, so to speak.
Well, it's natural dither, and then also you can't really saturate it in the digital realm the way you can with analog. I mean, like it's
very
like
true.
With a digital mixer, if you go into the yellow, you might be clipping and you might not even know it. Whereas with analog, you can push that into the red for a while and get, it's real distortion. It's not.
Well, it's harmonic distortion.
Right, it's harmonic distortion,
which
is
not
different. The clipping that you get with digital.
Or which is called digital distortion, or the actual zero. Because see, when you hit red in like any sort of interface, it's actually it's a hard limiter, and that's why it sounds really bad. Is that you're actually not reaching zero still. I mean, you're hitting like .00 -1. You know what I mean? Like it's just like it's very close, but it's a hard line limiter, and that's why you get all that really bad distortion. I kind of digress for a second though. The thing is that like USB guitars they don't sound like a real guitar. They sound almost synthetic. They have a weird warble in the actual
robot
string.
rock.
Yeah. But like not even like in a clever kind of cheeky sort of thing. It's an actual literal like phasing of the sample rate and so on and so forth. That's a digital reconstruction of something that should be inherently analog first. So,
I mean, I think granted, it's not an exact replica of guitar sound, but I would think you could use it to get some pretty cool other sounds out of it.
Perhaps
you ran it through something. I mean,
well, that's the issue though, is that it's not meant to be a controller. It's literally taking and converting analog sound into a digital realm. So it doesn't actually do anything but other than try to model what a guitar would sound like.
Well, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is that's what the 303 was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And it's never been very few people actually use the 303 for its intended purpose. So I'm saying there could be some other thing you could use USB guitars for that isn't modeling a guitar.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm just like from what I looked at as far as all the USB guitars on the internet, none of them offer any sort of like change in sound or anything like that. It's not like a synthesizer where you can do patch changes and shit like that.
Oh, so you don't even get that advantage.
No.
It's just like instead of patch cable into the amp or
Yeah.
even into like a lexicon interface or something. It's just, you're plugging it
If
in.
they did something like that, that'd be pretty cool.
That'd be pretty
That,
badass.
that would,
Yeah.
Well, then you're dealing with a whole different beast and a whole different ideology.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
like right
Yeah.
now, what you're trying to do is the whole issue that you have is that USB guitars are trying to simplify recording for a guitar player that, and make it ease of use and acceptable. Sorry. For the regular consumer, where there should be no place for that. There's a reason why it's more complicated, because it sounds better. I mean, like if any jackoff can get a USB guitar and create a hit record, then why the fuck am I sitting here talking to anybody?
That's a good point.
All right, I mean, like that's why they don't sound good. That's why they will never sound good. Is that they just don't have any breadth, any sort of real nuance to them. They just sound like some guy trying to hack away on something that sounds not quite like a guitar, but it's really damn close.
Although I think a MIDI guitar eventually, like something with, like you said, interchangeable patches could be
Yeah,
cool,
that
because then
would
it's
be
like a keytar but without keys.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
That would
So
be
then
cool.
you're not really necessarily even playing a guitar. You're playing a synthesizer.
Well, then you don't even really need the pickups. I mean, then you're dealing with something completely different.
Okay, great. Well, we're going to come back to that a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about amp modeling. But for the moment, this has been Crosstalk. I'm Bill Holland. This is Drew Craig.
What's up?
And Chubbs Weatherall. And we'll be back with more on GearWire.com.